Good stuff, man. And then the don'ts for relationship building in general, and leveraging quality relationships.
Mhm.
Would you say are the don'ts for that more broadly out, even outside of mentorship?
Oh man, yeah, don't I don't want to say be flaky, right? But what I mean is let's always think about what you should do. But like what I mean is don't act like you really want a relationship if you don't, because you're wasting each other's time. It's okay to realize and prioritize relationships that you do want to invest in because time is finite, right? We only have so many hours in the day, the week that we want to share and express, and don't feel like
Mhm.
you have to force something if it's not there. Be okay walking away from some relationships that you no longer want to build or just aren't reciprocal or don't
Mhm.
meet your needs anymore, and that you're like, this season of that relationship is over. Maybe it comes back later or not. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to acknowledge that and part ways. And I will start by saying, don't be flaky. Like, be a man or woman of your word. So if you're the one driving a relationship and setting things up and committing to do something, do your best to stick to that because it goes into I think where we're going a little bit about brand. Like, you got some of those people like, yeah, 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 so and so said they're gonna be here on time. We know they ain't coming for an hour. They're gonna be an hour and a half late,
Mm.
right? Or they've canceled on me 3 times. So do they really want to hang out or not? Right. So
Yeah,
if you're that person trying to
definitely.
build a relationship and like be honest, if you can't meet for 2 months, say, hey, my schedule is crazy for 2 months. I'd love to catch up, but man, June is
Yeah,
gonna be a better time for us. Maybe we can have a phone call here and there, but like far as getting together, don't try to force it if it's not gonna work. Because relationships you don't have to be in relationship in contact with a person every day to build a relationship.
right.
Right. So I think sometimes we feel that way. It's like, well, I hadn't talked to the person in 2 weeks, then what's going on? Like, nah, like I've got relationships that have been built over years where we talk maybe once a quarter.
Yeah,
Um, some might even be once a year, just a check in at a birthday time or Father's Day where we catch up or whatever the case may be. With that investment there, just know, hey, we thought about each other at an important moment in the year that's important to that other party.
yeah,
Right. Or I know that person's experienced something or had a loss and I'm checking in because they're on my mind.
yeah,
Those are relationship builders too. It doesn't have to be quantity over quality.
yeah. So how many times would you reach out to somebody that's not reciprocating? Let's say it's one of those relevant experience people.
Yeah.
You're trying to learn from them or take, and they might be busy or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
How many times would you attempt to make a connection before you say, they're probably not interested?
Um, I don't know if there's a given number. If it's someone that I've been watching from a distance, I think is what you're asking, and I don't really have a relationship with, but I actually was trying to say, hey, I've been keeping up with you. I've seen you on LinkedIn, or I've seen you in our industry articles, or I've seen you on Facebook, celebrating, whatever the case may be. I've seen you on Instagram. Maybe three if I'm really, really wanting to pursue that. I hate to put a number on it though, right? Because I
Yeah,
also am one that I don't like to pester people. I don't like to beg. I have this habit. I'm not going to beg you to take my money when I'm dealing with vendors and stuff, right? If I'm reaching out to a vendor for estimate, but I hate. But it depends on what you're after, right? Like you said, some people could be there. Now, I said three. It might be three within a short window. That
mhm,
doesn't mean I might not reach back out next year as I'm still seeing that person do some things that and then in a year I may have changed in myself and be at a different point to say, hey, I still love to catch up.
yeah.
So I wouldn't put a number on it, but but me personally, I don't like to pester, and I might put space between them.
How you feel about warm introductions? Like if you know somebody that knows somebody, trying
Yes,
trying to leverage that
yeah,
to have that person kind of introduce you or let the person know, hey, this
yeah,
person's interested in talking to you.
yeah.
Is that a good approach as well?
I'm a huge advocate of that. The thing that I would make ask people to be mindful of is the person you're going to ask to do the introduction. What relationship do you have with that person,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
The ones that are tricky is if you're reaching out to someone that you're not in relationship with and asking them to put their relationship on the line on your behalf.
yeah.
So if I'm in a relationship with someone and someone reaches out to me and say, "Hey, and this has actually happened recently with all the stuff that's happening with layoffs and all this kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
Several times. Hey, I understand you're in a certain space. Here's what's going on. Would you be open to putting my friend or this person in front of somebody?" And first thing I do is say, "Hey, let me talk to you about this person. You
Yes.
have a relationship with them.
Hmm.
If you were me, would you do it?" Most time it's yes because they're reaching out to me anyway. Okay, I was like, then now let me talk to that person.
Yeah.
Because why? He's like, well, Jomondre, why don't you just do it? You're in position to put, because I need the person to understand that I'm willing to sponsor you. And I'm a half full. I will sponsor people sometime when I shouldn't, but I want to have that conversation if I can to say, hey, here's some questions that I might get. Let me talk to you about it. What's your background? What's the story?
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to propose, I don't want to just put your business card out there with no context, never have
Yeah.
worked with you before. You're just a name. Because then, like, well, when I do this and I go to that well, I want it to come with some context and some edification. So at
Yeah.
least I want to talk to you to know, okay, I know you through somebody. What you're asking and why you're asking to be introduced makes sense, right? Let me see if I can bridge the gap, and then it might change who I introduce you to. The person that you're asking me to introduce you to may not even be the right person based on what you're trying to achieve, right? It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
could introduce you to that person, but here's based on what you said. Here's who I should introduce you to first,
Yeah.
right? And let's see if that conversation goes anywhere. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to build a bridge and give somebody the opportunity to start a net new relationship versus going out and making promises. And I always tell people, I can't promise you anything. Here's how I typically do this. Here's why I asked to chat with you first. Sometimes it's on a three-way with the person doing the introduction. Sometimes it's just, hey, have them call me tomorrow at 1 o'clock so we can catch up so that we can both understand what we're after.
Yeah.
But yeah, the long way for me saying, yes, I think I'm very much an advocate for using that process. I just ask people to think about the relationship you have that you're trying to leverage
Yeah.
and be open to sharing and making your case to the person you're asking to sponsor you, quite honestly, to speak on
Right.
your behalf. Yeah.
Plus, if you vouch for somebody, it can reflect on your personal brand in terms of that
Yes, it
that
can.
person, how that person conducts
Yeah.
themselves or how it
Yeah.
turns out. So you got to be
Yeah.
very careful about
Yeah.
that, even though you're well intended and we
Yeah.
want to help people.
And it's unfortunate because sometimes I'll just speak for our community. It's like we get a bad rap for you're in a position, but you're not willing to help anybody, right? Or, why aren't you helping anybody? And then when you go out and say, well, I'm here, let's talk about it. Here's what I want to kind of prepare. Are you willing to do that? Sometimes it's like, well, why's it got to be all that? Why can't you just, right? And on one hand, it's like you want me to vouch for somebody who's been fired from the last 8 jobs they've had,
Hmm.
that's walked off, right? And shown a propensity to not deliver. You want me now to put my brand next to that and do it. Take color out of it. I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
That's a tough thing to ask
it
someone to
is.
do.
It is.
But if
And
you've shown that
it's
maybe
an unfair thing to ask somebody to
it
do that.
is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm only going to sponsor people that have a great track record, but at least we want to understand, okay, if you've had some struggles in the past, how have you navigated it, and what's the story that helps us position you for this next point in your life.
Yeah.
And we have open conversations that this is going to be harder for you, but it
Yes.
does not mean we can't. So now let's talk about who I can put you in front of,
There you
right?
go.
And what conversations we can have. But to
Yeah.
blindly say, I want you to do this, and if I ask you questions, you're like, why has it got to be like that? Then
Hmm.
you don't have any respect enough for me and what you're asking in our relationship.
Yeah.
Then how do you expect me to put my name out there for somebody else?
Yeah. And their ask might not even be the best place for them to start, and they just might
Right.
not be aware of that. Right.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Good. That's a great segue to what I want to talk about next. And that's personal branding
Hmm.
and the relationship that plays in relationship building.
Yeah.